What's up, everybody? This is Justin Flinner coming to you live from Northern Virginia with the Justin Flinner Podcast by My Mentor Medicine. This month's Ask the Expert interview, we sat down with Asya Haikin, a certified professional yoga therapist from Falls Church, Virginia, where she runs her own practice, Peaceful Mind Yoga Therapy. She also works together with various other health practitioners at the Falls Church Wellness Center right here in Northern Virginia. If you are a yoga practitioner, then this is the podcast for you, because Asya is not only a certified yoga therapist, she is also an expert in the practice of yoga and has been an instructor for most of her life. In this interview, she explained to us the differences between various styles of yoga and how to make the choice to practice the style that is best for you. Asya also shared with us about yoga therapy, which is one of the newest forms of therapy that has exploded into the healthcare industry. When you listen to this podcast, you will understand why she is so passionate about this amazing practice and how she has helped so many people live a healthier and happier life through this ancient practice that has turned into a medicine. On behalf of Asya and I, we thank you for listening to this podcast, and be sure to tune in next month for our Ask the Expert interview. Keep on listening and we'll keep on recording. This is Justin Flinner, and this is the Justin Flinner Podcast. Have a happy 4th of July, everyone. Hi everybody, welcome back. This is June and it's the Ask the Expert interview with Asya Haikin. So we are going to discuss today yoga therapy. So this is a fairly new. I like to say brand new because it's in people's minds, it's becoming brand new. So yoga therapy is really hitting the medical industry by storm. And it's becoming very, very popular, not just because of the fact that it's yoga, and a lot of people practice it, but because now we're really starting to understand the benefits of what yoga can do for the individual. And we're taking that to the next level. And I now have with us today someone who is at that next level. So a certified professional yoga therapist, Asya Haikin, welcome.
Thank you.
So,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and it's a pleasure to have you here. So let's talk a little bit first about you. Let's get to know a little bit about you personally, professionally. So can you tell us a little bit about your practice, which is called Peaceful Mind Yoga Therapy, right?
Yes.
Okay, so your practice is in Falls Church.
Yes, I'm in Falls Church. I'm actually located at Falls Church Wellness Center.
Okay.
So I work at the Wellness Center. I work with individuals one-on-one. So often people get referred to me by mental health practitioners who work there, by chiropractors, medical doctors. So I work with a lot of individuals who have chronic pain, anxiety, depression, just stress. So what yoga therapy is, as opposed to, anyone can go to a yoga class, but the reason to come for a yoga therapist would be to have yoga applied to you individually. Right. Because not everybody is a good candidate for a yoga class. If you have a knee injury, you may not be able to come to a yoga class, but you can still benefit from yoga. So I make tailored practice for people, and then I coach them. I help them to take it home and make it their own. So I, figure out when they can do it, how much they can do, so it will become effective.
So this therapy, I'm going to ask a lot of questions about it.
Yeah,
I'm really curious. I know a little bit about it because we've been chatting, but I don't believe a lot of people out here will know as much as obviously you do. So how did you get into it? How did you go from what you were doing before, and then how you transitioned into this?
Yes, so I've been teaching yoga for almost 20 years now. I've started, way back, even before it was, very as popular as it is now. Mm-hmm. And I always was interested in the therapeutic benefits. I've always tended to, work with people who had, maybe injuries or medical conditions. So, I kept working with my teacher and upgrading my training, and a lot of the training I got was in different therapeutic applications. So 2 years ago, International Association of Yoga Therapists, which is a professional organization that's been promoting yoga therapy for the past 20 years or so, they started this new certification. So
So it's been around essentially then for 20 odd years. Or are we saying that yoga was a practice, but some people just refer to it as a therapeutic way to just sort of go about daily life? Or was it always at the level of yoga therapy and it's just now breaking through the scene?
So that's a very good question. You know, traditionally, if you go back to, you know, yoga as it was practiced in India, really the yoga class is a fairly new phenomena that started maybe in the early 20th century. But before that, yoga was usually done one-on-one, you know, from teacher to student. So, I mean, of course, yoga class is a great thing because it can, you know, reach more people. So when it came to the West, it tended to be in the class format, but there were always teachers who were interested in a more one-on-one approach. So we can say that all yoga is therapeutic, but, you know, at the same time, if you have, you know, 30 people in class, of course, some people will benefit, but it's not as precise as when you are working one-on-one. So definitely the therapeutic part has always been there. So you can say that all yoga is therapeutic, but especially the way it, you know, in the West, it kind of moved a lot into the fitness world, and, you know, we have yoga classes at the gyms, you know, which is great, but, you know, not appropriate for everybody's, you know, very kind of high power, strong, dynamic practice is not accessible for everybody.
So when you started yoga, did you have yoga therapy? Did you have experience with it before? Is this something you've done your whole life, or when did you start the whole process, becoming interested in it and saying?
So yes, I got interested in yoga first when I was in college, and it just was a way for me to help both my mind and my body. You know, my body was dealing with a lot of stress from studying and kind of, you know, sitting and looking down.
I know how that is, and a lot of people out there.
Yeah, so that my neck was hurting, and I, you know, went out looking for things. And interestingly, the first yoga book that I found, and, you know, there weren't as many yoga books, you know, back in the 90s, but it was called Yoga for Common Ailments.
Okay.
So, and in that sense, it feels like, you know, I've started with yoga therapy.
Right,
so
right.
I've used this book, and then I've started going to yoga classes, and eventually I moved on to teaching. That's kind of, so definitely I've applied it to myself, and, you know, I've applied it to people around me. So that's always been an important part.
That's great. And is there a person in mind that maybe had the most impact on your life that helped get you more involved with the profession, or introduced it to you for the first time?
So I mean, there were a lot of teachers when I was in graduate school in Philadelphia. I have a wonderful teacher there, a younger teacher, John White. And then when I moved to this area, I mean, this area has really, you know, even, you know, before yoga, you know, appeared everywhere, there were several big studios here that I've, you know, teachers that I've had been fortunate to study with. So, you know, definitely.
So I think this is a great point for me to say that if anybody out there has any questions for Asya, please send them in at any time. Put them in the comments feed at the bottom of this live video on Facebook. If you're not following us on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, no problem. Just flip over to that application and just pop a little question in the comment. Or if you just want to say hello, that's fine as well. We'll answer your questions as we go throughout, as they come in, and we'll go from there. So let me see. Yeah, we are popping up. We're right there. Perfect. All right. So now let's get into the meat of yoga therapy. So what does it actually mean to be a yoga therapist? Tell me a little bit about the profession.
Yes. So usually, you know, when someone comes to me for yoga therapy, you know, the first thing I do is talk to them. So I have kind of a, you know, lengthy intake process. And, you know, of course, we know that yoga is holistic. So I'm, you know, I'm not just asking them, you know, about their shoulder. You know, I talk about their lifestyle, you know, their support system. So it's really a holistic approach. And so I just listen, and so we start from there. And there are a lot of practices. Sometimes I have people come to me who don't really care about asana. You know, maybe they do exercise. You know, maybe they're a runner, but they're not interested in doing yoga. But they're really stressed out. So I can do yoga nidra with them, which is a guided relaxation practice. You know, I can do chanting, you know, mudras, hand gestures. So there's a whole spectrum of practices.
So based off of your intake and your conversations with them, you can tailor what comes next.
Exactly.
Which style is going to work best for them. And what movement. So can you tell us a little bit about that process? So you've done your intake, they come in, you figure out, oh, they might need this. Then what happens?
So I also I ask people about their goals. For example, you know, if someone tells me they want to relax, I'm going to take one direction. If someone tells me they want to get stronger, you know, so they can, you know, remain active and get more things accomplished, then I'm going to take a slightly different direction. So, you know, depending on my client's goals, we're going to put together a practice. So that, you know, we kind of, you know, try things out, see what works, and my goal is to come up with a practice, and then I send a follow-up. So people actually get their practice written out for them with little pictures and cues. And then usually it takes a few visits. We kind of go back and forth. You know, we see how the practice is working. So we can update it, see what works. You know, it's a process. But the really important part, if someone wants to do yoga therapy, I'm hoping they're willing to at least spend at least 10 minutes of their day doing some kind of practice, maybe just taking a mindful breath. I mean, I don't, you know, sometimes people have kind of an all or nothing approach, so they think, you know, I don't really have an hour to do yoga in the morning, so, you know, why even try? But sometimes a small thing, you know, just, you know, taking mindful breath throughout the day can make a difference. So I try to meet people where they are and give them something that's practical that, you know, they can work with.
Because that's a challenge being a practitioner, even myself.
Yes.
Okay, these are some things that I advise you to work on a little bit, some recommendations. Come back next week, or come back next session, whether it's a couple days from now, whatever it might be, and give me a little bit of information on what it is that you've actually done. Well, I didn't really have time to do this, or so to build it into their life is very important. So in terms of going through the therapy from session to session, roughly how many sessions or how many weeks or how long do you usually stick with the patient? Say that they're always on par 100% of the time. They're doing their homework, they're doing all the exercises, they're coming to see you, they're doing everything they're supposed to. What's a rough estimate in terms of time?
Sure. I mean, I've had people who come in once and, you know, they already have a strong practice, they just have a small issue, and, you know, I tweak their practice a little bit, and, you know, they tell me, well, it's great, it's working, I don't have that neck tension anymore. But usually, on average, people come in once a week for about, you know, maybe 4 to 8 weeks, so a couple, maybe, you know, 2 months, a little over that. I like to work on a weekly basis, and then, you know, from there, they might start coming bi-weekly or, you know, once a month to maintain and, you know, adjust. And, you know, sometimes, you know, goals change, you know, they're feeling better, so we started with a restorative practice, and they were mostly on the floor. They're feeling better, and they want a more active standing practice that they can do in the morning, so then I can design that for them. So it could be, it really depends, but it could be ongoing, or, you know, if it's, depending on how involved the issue is. You know, if it's something they've been dealing with for the past 30 years, it might take a little time.
Another 30 years, but yeah, it takes a little time. Exactly, right. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. So you get a feel for the patient in the beginning when they come in, have a nice conversation, and then you go through which, in your mind, which one is going to work best for them, develop a practice, have them repeat it, come back and see you. I think one of the additional benefits where you are at is the fact that you have other people around you. So Falls Church Wellness. So you have, last month actually, Stacy, who was here, you work in the same center, same clinic as her. So how do you work together, being that this is a major benefit for people to come to see you?
Yes, so it's really great to be part of a wellness center where all the practitioners have, you know, this collaborative approach. So, for example, we have a massage therapist, and, you know, she's great, and she sees people, and, of course, massage therapy is great, but depending on what, you know, they're sitting at their desk all day, you know, not moving. they're not going to feel so great. So she can refer someone to me, and I can talk to her, of course, with the permission of the client. So we can come up with the course with a practice, a course of treatment that's best for them. So someone who I'm seeing, if they're dealing with a lot, I might recommend a counselor. We have counselors, and there are people that I tend to collaborate with. So, and again, we might. So it's like when you go to a doctor and then they refer you out to someone else. Sometimes it takes a lot of effort to have them communicate.
That's
so
right.
We are in the same space. We have an acupuncturist, chiropractor, so we're in the same space. It's easy for us to talk. So definitely Fall Church Wellness Center is a great place to go to have a team, kind of an integrative approach to your health. We have a naturopathic doctor. Actually, I can mention now we're collaborating on a workshop that we'll be offering on July 28th on
What's going to be on?
It's naturopathic medicine and yoga for reducing inflammation. So, we know that inflammation is behind most chronic conditions. So we're going to talk about diet and lifestyle and yoga.
Okay, so inflammation more for chronic diseases. So what kind of labels do you think people out there might have that would benefit from this workshop?
So things, like metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, maybe pre-diabetic,
Like autoimmune issues, like
definitely,
arthritis,
yes,
rheumatoid arthritis, things like that.
Things like
Okay.
that.
So any kind of illness that you may be suffering from that's related towards inflammatory diseases.
Yes, and if you want to learn, what herbs to use, what supplements to use, you learn, a supportive yoga practice. And that workshop is actually happening at Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, and this is a yoga studio that I've been associated with.
And where is it located?
It's in Arlington.
In Arlington.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you live in Arlington and you're watching right
Try
now,
it out.
then check it out. Where can they find the information for it? On
So
your website?
actually on the studio website,
the
it's
studio
also on my
website.
website. You can go, my website is peacefulmindyogatherapy.com,
Okay.
or the studio website is sunandmoonyogastudio.com.
Okay. And when is it happening again?
It's July 28th, it's Saturday
July
at
28th.
1:30, so
Okay.
it's coming up
All right.
pretty soon.
Good. So this interview will be posted on YouTube a little bit later, and I will have all the information, including website, if you happen to forget and can't remember where to scroll through in the video. So I'll have it posted for you easily so that you can find it and get to that workshop. So when can they register now?
Yes.
Or good. So register now. Take a look at it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to send it in now, and she can answer questions about that workshop. So I hear it vibrating. I wonder if it is coming from our feed. Okay, not quite yet. But I do have another question for you. Just popped into my mind when you're talking about yoga therapy specifically. I'm afraid that people might think that, being that it's new, that they might think, well, what's the difference between yoga therapy and me just getting like a one-on-one session with a yoga instructor?
Mhm.
I think the answer is found, though, in the training that you have received. So can you speak a little bit about the training that you have had that sets you apart from just someone who's just a yoga instructor and can do a one-on-one session with someone in a studio?
Exactly. So, so to become a certified yoga instructor, you need 200 hours of training. And I mean, there are a lot of programs out there. Some of them are great. Some of them will actually do this training in a week. I mean, I'm not sure how you can fit 100 hours of training.
That's a lot of training in 1 week.
So to be a yoga therapist, you need another 800 hours of training on top of that. So most of the yoga therapy programs are 2 to 4 year programs, depending on how intensely you want to work. Actually, master's level programs in yoga therapy are popping up. There's one at Maryland University of Integrative Health.
Right.
So mostly it's a training. Yoga therapists are trained to assess. They're also, of course, trained about their scope of practice, what they know about, and they don't treat or diagnose. They just apply tools of yoga. They know when to refer to a licensed medical practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, and especially if you just want to do yoga and you don't like the class, you want a one-on-one yoga, you can work with the yoga instructor, and that's perfectly fine. If you're dealing with specific condition, if you want yoga therapy to be tailored to whatever you're dealing with, you're probably better off finding a yoga therapist.
Right.
And so maybe I can. So if you are, maybe you're not exactly in this area, the place to learn about yoga therapy and to find a yoga therapist, there's a website called yogatherapy.health. So it's a website with information about yoga therapy, and it will also give you a link where to find a C-IAYT certified yoga therapist.
And that's the pamphlet that you
Yes.
gave to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I put several pictures up on
Great.
social media of that pamphlet, and I brought it up in one of my videos. So
Wonderful.
if you want to see what it looks like, or I have a couple screenshots, so go ahead and take a look on the Facebook feed, and you'll find it.
So one more thing I wanted to
Sure.
mention. So yoga therapy, of course, is done one-on-one, but it can also be done in a small group setting. So
okay.
I have a general yoga class at the group yoga class at the wellness center that I teach. So I meet with people beforehand to learn about their specific conditions, and then it's just another option for.
You try to group those people
Yes.
together, like this is my, for lack of a better way of understanding it, like this is my arthritis group.
So this is
my
the best
diabetes
way to
group.
do that. This is the best way to do that, to have classes specific for specific conditions. Yes, and so it's just a way to make it more accessible, so more people can benefit.
That's fantastic. That's a good way to do it. I think it's similar to the route that acupuncture
Yes.
takes from time to time, especially in community settings.
You can do a group treatment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that would be also for specific.
Right. So sometimes for specific things, sometimes it's just a very quick in and out. If somebody just wants to just relax,
Sure.
or take a break from work,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
have a break from their normal routine or day, etc.
Yeah.
How would a person know that they would actually need a yoga therapist versus another form of treatment or therapy?
So, I mean, yoga therapy is complementary. It's, it does not take place of your regular medical treatment, but it's it's complementary, and I mean, everybody can benefit from it. If you have, I think it is particularly beneficial for people with chronic pain, because it can really, because of its mind-body approach, because we know now that, pain, I mean, it's not all in your mind, but the mind is a big part of it, because the mind is trained to be reactive to pain, with people who do have a lot of pain. So with yoga and mindfulness and meditation, you can retrain the mind. So I'm finding that people with chronic pain can really benefit from yoga therapy. But even if you have, back pain, any chronic conditions, if some people just don't do very well in a group class, and they if you have a strange schedule that doesn't fit
And I
into
think that a lot of people, when they go to class too, they're going for a specific reason. Or maybe a friend invited them, maybe their physician or healthcare provider or acupuncturist and told them, say, you might benefit from going to a class or something of that nature. But that specific reason, they might not feel comfortable voicing, whether it's to the other people in the class or to the teacher themselves, because they don't have that kind of connection. But with you, there's probably a level of confidentiality
Exactly.
that you have to honor
So
and
people
protect.
can talk about their issues. And
Right.
even if they will be someone who's new to yoga, it will really benefit them greatly to have some, one-on-one work. Because then when they go to class, they're going to know what are, modifications are good for them. What things they want to do, what things maybe they want to, skip. So it's definitely a good investment if you want to get into yoga too.
Right, and I think that's a great direction for yoga to be going in, and now turning into yoga therapy, is because people can now have a nice conversation with you for however long you set that aside for, so that they can give all of the information that's relevant to them, that's relevant to their what they want to see happen, hopefully, and you can officially design the treatment with them, and then carry them through the process in a protected environment or a group environment, which is in a sense also protected because you have similar conditions. And they can feel comfortable leaving knowing that, not to say that other people or other practitioners might tell the whole world about what's going on, but they feel almost as though
They
they're
feel safe.
safe.
Right,
Exactly, that's
right,
the perfect word for it.
right,
They feel
yeah.
safe. So it's a safe environment for people to move to the next level in their health, doing something
Yes.
that will most certainly help them.
And especially if someone wants to practice at home, I mean, of course, there's, tons of yoga there's a lot of things online, but if you have a practice that's, someone tailored to your specific needs,
Right.
it's going to be so much more beneficial.
Right. So if you're a regular yoga practitioner and you go to classes often, but you have a condition that you're working through and you're not really comfortable sharing all of that information, this is a professional and certified yoga therapist, someone of this nature you can speak to privately and take your yoga practice that maybe you have developed or been going through for years now and move it to the next level without having the entire class know, without having every instructor that you have worked with know. You can apply what you learn in this setting in every single class that you take, and then you can eventually get through it using the practice that you love. So let's go to a few questions. I have so many questions. Look at all these cards. I really want to learn as much about this as I possibly can. What are some of the most common questions that you get asked? I mean, I'm asking a lot of questions, but maybe is there a question or two that you can think of that you often get asked about what you do?
So I think the most common question is, what is yoga therapy? Is it like physical therapy? So
Hopefully we've answered
yeah,
that by now.
so that's the most common question that people still get confused about. In terms of
so a patient comes in and they say, well, I wanted to try this. I wanted to see what it is.
yeah.
What are some of the questions that the patients might give you? Like, is this going to work? Does it,
So I think, people may ask, like how long, like how much do I have to practice? Do I have to like do all hour?
Uh-huh.
So I think the important thing for people to understand that it's not like I have this idea in my head, like this is yoga therapy and I'm going to, fit my client into it. So it's totally, so it's the client that's in the center, and so I'm going to create a practice that's totally appropriate for them, and it can be, as little or as much as, they need, or as much or as little as appropriate for whatever they're dealing with. So, and the issue that I often find, someone tells me, well, I've tried yoga, I tried yoga and I hurt my back. And that this is really, it's sad because, we want people to benefit from yoga, but unfortunately, maybe a doctor tells you, okay, go ahead, do some yoga, but it's really great to reach out to, medical practitioners so they know if they refer someone, they know, what's appropriate, what's a class or, a therapist or a teacher that will be able to help this person as opposed to having a negative experience.
That's one of the questions that I have for you. But before I go into that, I want to ask about, you don't always do just yoga. Right? I mean, you do, of course, it's yoga therapy, but you use tools.
Yes.
And one of them is sitting right behind me and her on the table. She has, what are they called again?
They're called Tibetan tone bowls. They're Tibetan bowls.
Tibetan tone bowls. Now I'm going to show you up close what these. I have this giant mallet. It is a giant mallet. It's very nice. But I mean, you can see, you've heard of probably Tibetan singing bowls, but these are very different.
Yes.
Right? But look how beautiful this engraving is right here in the center. Let's show it to both so you can see. And these are handmade.
Yes, they're
right?
handmade in India
Heavy.
by a family who's been doing it for generations, and they are specifically made for vibrational therapy. So do you want to?
Yeah, please.
I'll have you try
Go
it.
ahead.
So what I want you to do is just relax your hand. I'm going to support your hand, but you make it really heavy, so your arm is relaxed. Yeah, don't do
You're
anything.
holding me up. Okay,
Yes, I'm
so
holding
she's
you up.
holding me up.
And so I'm going to ring the.
This is a heavy bowl.
Yes, this is it's called the big resonator.
I like that feeling. I can feel the whole vibration going into every one of my fingers and the palm. And how many times do you do it?
Yeah. So I'm just going to do it again.
Go ahead, please. It feels very good. Oh, I can feel it coming up higher.
So usually when you do a whole treatment session, you can use the table, and I have 3 bowls, and one goes on the heart area, one goes on the belly, and then the smaller bowl,
okay.
You got it.
Yeah,
the smaller bowl gets moved around the body. But the way I use it for my yoga therapy clients is to mostly to help people relax, because if someone comes in and we only have we have an hour, we talk, but this, when I put it on someone's body and ring it, the vibration just helps you drop immediately into your parasympathetic nervous system. Like, it just helps you relax immediately. It connects you to your inner being, and it's just like everything goes so much easier
Even
from there.
just holding it and feeling it, the sound. I mean, if I close my eyes, I would probably experience it even more. But
Yes.
also, you have a person lying down, right?
Usually I would do it for someone lying down. I mean, it depends, or you can use 2 hands, but usually I would do it lying down. If you're doing it on the table face down, that's like one of the most relaxing things you can do. I just love it.
Where do you place it usually?
So the big one goes on the sacrum, and then this is the heart bowl. I'm just going to read. So it has a slightly higher pitch. So this is the heart bowl. So it goes either on the front chest or on the back chest. And then there's another smaller bowl that I move around the body on the acupressure points and the meridians.
So they're very different than the singing bowls. I mean,
Yes.
It seems like the frequency or the tone is much
Yes, they're
deeper.
designed to create vibration, and they just
Right.
include your cells.
I can really feel it, and of course the hand is a very sensitive part of the body, and it feels a lot easier than other places. But that vibration just goes right through. And of course, I mean, there's a lot of different forms of sound therapy. I've seen people use tuning forks and other various things. I mean, just music therapy.
Yeah, and then
drums
sound
and
therapy,
tones.
it's great.
Because it penetrates through the whole body, which is not easy for any kind of therapy.
Exactly.
So sound therapy.
Yeah,
These things, these are amazing. So how do you incorporate this into a set of treatments for someone? Like, you'll do a little yoga and then have them lie down?
So usually yes.
Because I would just come for this. I like yoga,
absolutely.
but this is
so
really
I do.
nice.
I'm also a certified Reiki master, and
okay.
so I try to find tools that help people. So this, sometimes I do it as a separate treatment, and I combine it with Reiki. But if someone comes in just for this, then it's a whole treatment. I use it on their back, I use it on their front body. But when I combine it with yoga therapy, sometimes even if I have a group session, like at the end, when people are in Shavasana, I will just go around and put it in their body. And individually, like I said, if someone comes in who maybe they've had like a really stressful day and they feel a little jittery, and I can't even do it at the end. In the beginning, I just have them lie down and do 5-10 minutes of vibrational therapy, and then they're ready to go. They can meditate, because it can be hard to get into that space. The bowls is just like a direct pathway for you to get connected to your inner being.
This is really nice. They're beautiful. They're really heavy, and I can feel it. So they obviously do something that really allows the individual to relax, because I feel relaxed just after doing it on my hand. So let's get into what we were briefly talking about before, which was the different kinds of yoga. So when practitioners see patients, or anyone is just sort of looking for what kind of yoga they might want to practice outside, say, I want to join a yoga class, I can think of probably at least 5 different kinds of yoga, and there's many more, and you know way more than I do. So that's just why I want to ask you, how do you know what is going to work best for the patient? How do you know which one to choose? You said yoga nidra, you said, what was another one that you mentioned? Asana?
So, I think it's good for of course, hopefully a doctor who recommends yoga has, some knowledge. But But in general, there are styles that are more, physical, more demanding. Like if,
Like
you could
Bikram,
like
perhaps.
Vinyasa yoga, Bikram yoga, hot yoga. So these
Hot
are
yoga.
styles that, if you are in a good shape, maybe you have like a little bit back pain, but you are generally, very fit. You can do one of those styles, and
Right.
they will probably be beneficial. Although you always, especially if you're some, people who are very flexible, they really like yoga, and it can be easy to overdo this. So like over time, if you've been doing it for 20 years, and then, that can really wear out the joints. So just, if you can do it, that does not necessarily mean that it's good, that you should be doing it. So it's just a note of caution. But other styles, there are styles that are a little slower paced, more alignment based, which are, good for people who maybe have some arthritis, who have some limitations.
What are
like
some
a
of the
younger yoga. It depends on what studio you go. Classes can have different names. Basically, my advice is do research. Look at the website, read, check out the classes. Yes, because it's there's so much yoga out there, so it's not easy to just say. Yin yoga is a more slow kind of restorative style where you do a lot of supported postures on the floor. Restorative yoga will be mostly supported relaxation. Yoga nidra is just a guided relaxation practice, which is kind of would go more under meditation. So just be an informed consumer.
Exactly, that's a great point.
Yeah,
Because if anyone out there is looking for a yoga practice, or if you are currently practicing yoga and you're finding that what you're doing doesn't really work that well for you, like she said, do a little research. And especially if a practitioner that you're seeing or your doctor says, you should do a little more yoga, or why don't you try a yoga practice so that you don't feel as stressed. Your next question that you should ask is what type of yoga? There's a lot out there. So don't assume that everyone that says that you should do yoga knows everything that there is to know about yoga. I say the same thing about Tai Chi. So when I tell someone to do Tai Chi practice, I give them a little bit more information as to what they should be practicing. So the same thing applies here.
Yeah, so there's a term gentle yoga, which is a good way if you're just starting out, and also, it can be a spectrum depending on what are the other classes at the studio. But starting with gentle is a good choice. Yeah, but always, try it out. Don't give up. There is a lot of yoga out there, and anyone can do yoga, so you'll find something that works for you.
I don't doubt it, because it can be found almost everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And what kind of credentials should one look for in an instructor? We've talked about a therapist, but as an instructor, you've gone through that phase.
So the instructor, the basic certification for instructors is 200 hours with Yoga Alliance, so it would be C-IAYT 200. There's also 500 hours, so if they do another 300 hour on top of that. But it all depends. Check out the studio, see if you like the atmosphere there. Definitely, try for yourself and see if it works for you. So if you're looking for, the most training, look for a yoga therapist, C-IAYT certified. So the website Yoga Therapy for Health would have a directory for that.
So if you have an instructor that has that certification, you can feel comfortable going into the class knowing that person has a decent idea and they're trained in what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not saying there are a lot of yoga teachers. When I started teaching, it was before Yoga Alliance. Certification does not necessarily equal knowledge and experience. So of course it's like a basic thing to start with, but
we can be
talk
real,
to
we
the
can be
instructor.
honest.
Yeah, talk to the instructor. And
there are some people out there that practice and say that they know what they're doing, but in fact they've had very little training, but they've had a lot of practice. A lot of people claim to know a lot about everything. So even in Tai Chi, I've come across a lot of people that say, well, I know a little bit about this, why don't you come and learn from me? Well,
Yeah, so
let's see your track record.
yoga therapy is not yet a licensed field. I think they're going to move,
And
once that moves more into healthcare field, there probably will be licensing. Up until then, anyone can be a yoga therapist.
But the foundation, though, that yoga has had before yoga therapy has broken through the seams. And now the fact that there is certification and you're working towards licensure and whatnot, it seems like it's almost exactly the same route that acupuncture has taken.
Yes.
I mean, we've come a long way in the past 30, 40 years when it could only be practiced by doctors, and then you had to practice with a doctor, and then eventually, people were literally taken to jail because they were practicing outside of the working in tandem with another doctor. So acupuncture's come a really long way, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here having a conversation with you in treating patients. So I think yoga is on the same route.
Yes.
And I think that's absolutely fantastic. So don't think of yoga therapy as just being, it's another one-on-one course, it's my yoga personal trainer. No, this is a much higher level. You have a highly trained individual, and especially if they move forward and they get their master's degree in conjunction with their certification, then you can actually say, wow, this person is, even though licensure doesn't exist, they could be considered a medical professional in the area of yoga and using therapy to help you. So if you have a condition, you're a yoga lover, this is a great place to take your practice to another level. But even if you don't practice yoga, I think it's absolutely another option that
totally accessible.
you should consider.
That's the thing. That's why, one of the reasons I really love what I do, because I believe, anyone can benefit from yoga, and yoga therapy is really a way to make it accessible to, everyone. So one more thing that I was going to mention, talking about how yoga is accessible, at the Wellness Center we have a special program that we do in collaboration with Love Your Brain Foundation, and it's Yoga for Traumatic Brain Injury. It's actually a free 6-week yoga series with using their specially designed research-based curriculum. So if if you know anyone who's had a traumatic brain injury, and it could even be a concussion, and it could be even years ago, go to the loveyourbrain.org website and find, so you can register through the website. They have our Wellness Center listed there, and the next starts in July, and the next series starts in July.
How do you spell that?
Love Your Brain.
Oh, Love Your Brain.
Love Your Brain. Yes, loveyourbrain.org. It's a foundation started by Kevin Pierce.
Okay.
Who was a Olympic snowboarder and had a brain injury about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So definitely look into that. And after people complete this course, they get a discounted access to our regular yoga classes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay, so you have two options. So you have a workshop coming up shortly, and then you also have this 6-week program. So that's fantastic. Now, we've talked a lot about yoga, and we've certainly talked a lot about yoga therapy. Hopefully we've gotten the message across. Let me take a quick look to see, let me refresh this. Maybe some comments have filtered in, give that a second. I want to ask a couple questions about you. So we know you're a therapist, we know you've practiced yoga for, 20 years or more, and you do a lot of different things to help people. Can you share with us one story that perhaps no one has heard before about a time in your life that helped shape who you are today?
So, interesting question.
It's a long question, I know.
I
can repeat it again if you'd like.
That's okay.
One story about you that maybe people don't know about you.
I guess I didn't mention, so I have a master's, when I was in graduate school and I really got into yoga, I have a master's degree in art history. And I was yes, I really, I still love art, I love going to museums. And I always, was trying to figure out, how did I get, from art history to yoga, and I wasn't sure. I knew it had to make sense, the different paths that we have through life, they have to make sense. But what I'm realizing, I think the connection is really something that goes deeper and affects you on a deeper level and heals your soul, because art it's something not really practical, same as yoga, but it's something that makes people feel better. It's why do we have art? It makes people feel better.
There's
you
art
look
therapy
at
too.
art, exactly.
You could have gone into
Yeah,
art therapy.
yeah,
I mean, in a
and-
way, you kind of did.
Yeah.
But
So, I just think it's interesting, just for myself, kind of looking back at it and, where, the path that I took. But, I think everything, makes sense on some level.
who's one of your favorite artists?
I love Cezanne.
Cezanne.
I just like.
I'm completely in left
What-
field when it
what-
comes to a lot of artists.
What do you like?
I don't know. Now you're putting me on the spot. This is good. I mean, there's so many artists. I mean, my wife is a fanatic in terms of different arts. She likes to do all kinds of different things. So we will go to museums here in DC, which
It's
is a great place to
I know.
do it.
Yeah,
I would
great.
love, though, I didn't actually intend to advertise it, but the Renwick has this Burning Man gallery or exhibit.
How to go there?
I haven't been there yet. I don't know if anybody's in the area
I
right
love
now.
the Renwick.
Swing by the Renwick and go see this Burning Man exhibit that they have. It's supposed to be really nice. But anything that draws my attention is very creative. I really don't have a specific.
But it's kind of like looking at art. It's like meditation.
It is.
And I've found that I take my kids sometimes to the National Gallery and they have these, art talks, and they start with meditation and think this is something new, because when I was doing it 20 years ago, 25,
Mhm.
30 years ago, it wasn't as connected. But now they
It's like a
just
lecture.
it was like a lecture. But now they really make it a mind-body experience.
No, that's good. They're starting to build the connections
Yes.
to it. This is good.
Yeah.
So, what is one important lesson that you learned along the way with your training, with all of your experience in art, that you can share with everyone listening and watching? What's one thing that you've learned?
I think the important thing that I've learned is that it's okay to start small. It's okay to be ambitious, but often what I find is people set goals that are not necessarily realistic, and then we feel like a failure. Okay, I wanted to get this practice in this morning for an hour, but then, I was really hungry and I had to go get breakfast. But even, if you do a little bit, it all builds, and it's the attitude. So if you spend 10 minutes and you feel good about it, it's better than if you do your practice for half an hour and then feel like a failure because you didn't complete the whole hour.
Right.
So just start small and go from there.
That's a good tip. I like that, because sometimes whenever you get out of your practice or your exercise routine, or something gets in the way, whether it's work or family or personal things, that's one of the first things that people put on the sideline is, well, I don't have time to do that, and that's not really important to me right now. And then you try to get back into it, and that's one of the most challenging
Exactly.
things. But you have to make it a point to get into that practice and make it a regular thing. So I like your tip that even if you miss the practice, no problem.
Start
Just
small.
24 hours in the day, you can fit it in at any point, even if it's 5 minutes of practice, or like you said earlier, just a
Mindful
couple
breath.
of mindful
Yeah.
breaths. That's fantastic. My last question for you, Asya, is my favorite question. What gets you out of bed every single day?
Well, of course, it's my family.
Yeah.
But
Your
it's,
children come running in.
but it's the people. I love the reason I do what I do is that it helps me connect with people. So I love to work with people and connect with them. And I don't think it's not me who's helping people, but I help them to connect to their own healing potential, because that's what yoga therapy is about. It helps people heal from within. It's not something that I do to them. It's what they do to them. So I think it's establishing this connection and just communicating this is what's really important for me.
Well, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
This is Asya Haikin, and you can find her in Falls Church at her practice. I don't want to say the wrong words. It was Peaceful Mind Yoga Therapy. So your website is peacefulmindyogatherapy.com.
Yes.
She's in Falls Church
Falls
with
Church
Falls
Wellness
Church
Center.
Wellness Center. Thank you. She's very passionate about yoga, but she's even more passionate about yoga therapy. We had long conversations before this conversation today about what it is that yoga therapy can do. So if you want to learn more about it, if you're a yoga lover, you're a yoga practitioner, keep practicing yoga. And if you're ready to take it to the next level, or if you have some specific concerns or ailments or conditions that you want a little bit more help with, and you think that this therapy might help you along the way, this is the person to talk to. So get in touch with her. I'll have all of her contact information available for you to do that. And let me take one quick look, see if we have any comments. We'll get to some of these a little bit later as they come in. And thank you all very much for tuning in. And thank you again,
Thank you
Asya,
so much.
for being here.
Thank you, Justin.
Justin Flinner, Asya Haikin, and this is My Metro Medicine. You can find this video on YouTube in the next several weeks, and you can also listen to this interview on our podcast, the Justin Flinner podcast. I'll have it available and up for you next week, first thing. So if you missed the entire interview today, you can catch it from here on out. So thank you all for tuning in, and have a nice, wonderful day. Stay cool. It is, if you're in the DC area, it is 100 degrees outside. All right. Thank you all, and I'll see you next month.
This podcast is brought to you by My Metro Medicine, an organization that is dedicated to helping people improve their lives by learning to empower themselves and take control of their own life. Any form of reproduction or distribution of this podcast is strictly prohibited. Should you have any questions on using this podcast or information that is contained within this podcast, please write to info@mymetromedicine.com.